Jesse Butler, the Oklahoma teen who pleaded no contest to horrific rape charges involving two ex-girlfriends at his high school, is officially a free man. His story spread like wildfire last year when the public learned that Butler was granted youthful offender status, meaning his punishment was slashed from decades in prison to months on probation. But now, as he finished up his so-called sweetheart sentence, a newly elected district attorney is vowing to keep pursuing justice for Butler's victims. We're on the case presented by Law&Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. This story is outrageous in the most frustrating of ways. As of midnight last night, now 19-year-old Jesse Butler of Stillwater, Oklahoma, has been discharged from court-ordered supervision, a punishment he received after entering a no-contest plea to rape and assault charges, then having his case granted youthful offender status. August 4th marks his 19th birthday, and that meant instead of spending decades behind bars, he received probation, which included counseling, community service, and a $3,300 restitution payment. If he failed, he could have faced a 10-year sentence in prison. But during a court hearing on Monday in Payne County, Oklahoma, officials confirmed that he was being discharged with supervision. According to News 9 in Oklahoma, Butler's attorney says the next step is to file a motion seeking dismissal of the case and expungement of the record. I mean, again, we are talking about a no contest plea to rape charges. And I'll be speaking in a moment with content creator Justin Shepard, host of Justin the Nick of Crime. You've probably seen him on social media. He really helped rocket this story to the national stage. So we want to get his reaction to the latest news. And we're also going to be sitting down with the attorney representing one of the victims' families. And she is going to help break down what went down in court for Butler's final hearing. And just wait until you see what Butler's attorney apparently said in the courtroom. Now, ever since news of Butler's crimes started to spread, there's been outrage. And it's not just over the decision to classify Butler as a youthful offender, but that Butler could eventually have his record cleared, and that it was possible that he could go on to commit more crimes because the charges that he faced were so serious. Back in 2024, two of Butler's ex-girlfriends came forward alleging horrifying abuse. One teen, identified in court records as LS, says after getting ice cream, Butler drove her to a parking lot and tried to rape her in his car. According to an affidavit filed with the court, quote, LS reported she yelled and told him no repeatedly and tried to push him off of her, but was unable to overpower him. LS reported Butler told her he was sorry for what he was about to do, but he had to do it. But then when he took her back to her own car, he allegedly warned, quote, you're not going until I'm finished. It's terrifying. The other girl, who's identified in court records as KS, says Butler assaulted her too. In the affidavit related to her case, an investigator detailed what she said happened when she was house sitting for a family friend. Quote, Butler expressed a desire to have sexual intercourse with her at the house. KS reported she did not want to do anything at the house. Butler became angry, came up behind her, put his arm around her neck, and strangled to unconsciousness. She could not breathe, scratched at his arms, and tried to get away, but could not free herself. KS woke up on the floor of the living room after losing consciousness. KS reported there were red marks across her neck after Butler strangled her. Approximately 15 minutes after strangling her, Butler initiated sexual intercourse with her. KS also claimed that Butler had recorded himself choking her, and police have said they later found those images on his phone. Both girls reported him to their school in September 2024. One got an emergency protective order, but she and her family claimed that Butler violated it. He would end up facing a violation of protection order charge alongside his other serious felony charges. Arrest warrants were issued in January and February of 2025, but they weren't executed for weeks. Butler was finally arrested, though, on March 4th. And we have the body cam footage from that day, which shows the moment detectives arrived at his home.
Hello. are you Jackie?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Jackie. I'm Detective Bruce with the Stewart Police Department. We're here because we have a warrant for Jesse's arrest. I assume you know that already. Okay, is he here?
Yes.
Okay.
I told him not to answer the door till I got home. He's scared to death,
So here's what's gonna happen. Like, we're gonna take him into custody. His bond is $25,000.
Okay.
Once he gets to the jail and we get him booked in, well, I guess on the way to the jail, I guess you could contact a bondsman.
Yeah.
Or I mean, if you have 25 grand lying around, you can do that. But if you contact a bondsman, then they can post his bond and he can get right out today.
Okay.
So, and
Like,
during
what kind of time frame does that look like? Just out of curiosity, like midnight tonight or
no,
an hour?
like you can contact a bondsman in
yeah,
maybe like an hour and a half
with
or something.
Andy Baker, I'm sure y'all know Andy.
So
she's the one that told me.
It's a pretty quick process.
Okay.
We just like have to get him booked in,
Okay.
and then once he's booked in, and just so you know, he is a juvenile, so he won't be like with any adults. Like he can't be housed with any adults.
Okay.
So there is a chance that he may be moved over to Payne County. But for right now, depending on how long it takes you to get with her and get the bond set
I'll
up,
call her right back. So
then he'll probably just be at our facility at the city of Stillwater.
Okay.
And she can
Whose
come over
call
there.
is that?
It just like we can only hold him for 6 hours.
Oh, okay. So if I get it done now, we're good.
Yeah.
He's not going to be moved.
No.
Okay. Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, he shouldn't be. The only big holdup is if we have somebody else in the jail because we can't have them intermingle. Like if they're booking somebody in, it could hold us up like maybe 15, 20 minutes, something like that. But it's not going to be a long thing generally.
We're ready to obviously tell our story too.
Yeah.
Jess, it's Mom. Open the door. Give me your wallet and phone and stuff. So, okay. Your what?
They're in the car.
Well, okay, it's fine. It's not locked or anything, is it? Okay. So, can you tell him what you just told me, or?
Yeah. So we're here. We're obviously going to place you under arrest. There's a warrant for your arrest. We're going to take you to the jail. I told your mom that she can contact a bondsman, and you shouldn't be very long. But there just is a process for paperwork and stuff. But right now, you do have to come with us, and I do have to put you in handcuffs. So turn around for me.
You have to put him in handcuffs?
I
Violent for us anytime we transport somebody in custody.
You know we're going to win this. It's okay.
do you have a, yeah.
I'll get you out. For me? All right. Stay silent. Rick knows about this. Candy's on this. Dad's on his way. We're coming to get you, okay? Stay strong, okay? Say your prayers.
Okay, so he's going to go right to the city of Stillwater jail, and if you'll just contact her, then she does this all the time. She knows what to do.
Yeah.
Make sure
Okay.
she knows Stillwater Police Department, not county.
Stillwater Police Department.
Yeah.
On Lewis. Yeah.
Let them know that
Perfect.
we're the ones that picked him up.
And
They
when
don't-
you say we are the ones.
Stillwater PD.
Stillwater PD.
Yeah.
Okay.
That way they don't think he went like straight over and he's over at the county.
Awful experience for a child.
Are you going to pass the people? Yeah. Make that short. You going to pass it down and spread your feet for me? Nothing in your socks.
Love you, Jess. See you in a bit.
According to reporting from 2 News Oklahoma, the judge said Butler completed the terms of his program with 0 violations. But the hearing apparently took a strange turn this week when Butler's attorney asked to speak. Now, in Oklahoma, cameras are not allowed in the courtroom, but according to reports from multiple local media outlets, tensions rose when Butler's attorney asked to make a statement. He reportedly talked about his client's innocence and suggested that his client was the real victim in all of this, not the 2 young girls he assaulted. That apparently led to tears from the victims, as you can imagine, and a passionate response from the newly elected district attorney for Payne County named Jeremiah Gregory. He was in the gallery of the courtroom during the hearing, and here is the new DA's full statement. Quote, "Today was the final hearing in the matter of the criminal case against Jesse Mack Butler. Today's hearing included disingenuous assertions from the defense regarding the defendant's innocence, that he was the victim in this matter, and that the victim's assertions were false and had no bearing. The defense portrayed that somehow the perpetrator suffered more than these victims. What was said was insincere, untruthful, and affront to these victims and what they had endured. Nothing has made my blood boil more. I did not know this was going to be allowed, nor did the defense attorney reveal he intended to make any kind of statement. The statements made in court were inappropriate, to say the least, and I will not remain silent without contradicting such assertions. I have asked the court to allow me to supplement the record to refute these egregious statements made by the defense so that the victims of these crimes may be heard. This case was filed and prosecuted, and the defendant was pled and sentenced a year ago prior to my assuming office last Friday. I want the public to understand that in cases where a defendant either has pled or has been found guilty by a judge or jury, the United States Constitution says the defendant shall not be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb. This is the double jeopard clause of our Constitution. So the government of the state of Oklahoma cannot prosecute a defendant a second time for the same offense after a defendant has already been convicted, nor can the government of the state of Oklahoma hand out more than one criminal punishment for the same offense. The Constitution I was sworn to uphold unambiguously prohibits it. However, the federal government is a separate sovereign entity from the state of Oklahoma where double jeopardy has not attached. Therefore, my office will be submitting this case to the appropriate federal agency for prosecutorial review of this matter. I cannot undo what has already been done, but I can and will continue to stand as a strong voice for all victims of violent crime. This is not the only threat of federal action against Butler and others involved in the case. Last December, the family of LS filed a lawsuit in the Western District of Oklahoma against multiple parties, including the city of Stillwater, Independent School District number 16 of Payne County, Jesse Butler, and his parents, Jackie and Mac, and 2 school employees. We checked on that case. It appears to still be working its way through the courts. Multiple motions and briefs have been filed, but not much has happened on the docket since March of this year. The plaintiffs are seeking compensation in excess of $75,000. Joining us now to talk more about this, content creator Justin Shepard, host of Just in the Nick of Crime. You can find him at that handle on social media. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. You've been very outspoken on this case and really helped make it a national news story. I think for a lot of people who are hearing about it for the first time, there's just this question of how did this deal come together? Walk us through like how this came to be after Jesse Butler was charged.
So this really is kind of insane because if you look at what his charges were, you look at what he did, you look at the evidence that's supposedly on his phone, how he walked away with the youthful offender deal is really mind-boggling. You know, how he actually got this deal, it's all speculation at this point. You know, when you look online and listen to the rhetoric and the discussion and discourse that's going on, you know, here's what I can tell you. This occurred in Stillwater, Oklahoma. His father, whose name is Mac Butler, used to be the former director of athletic operations for OSU in a small college football town. So a lot of people have connected the dots and said, well, and again, I'm not saying this definitively, I'm just giving kind of the discourse that, you know, maybe it's a well-connected family. There's some money at play. He's an athlete, you know, in high school. And, you know, it's one of those typical stories we hear. We don't want to ruin a young man's career. So originally when he was first charged, he was going to be charged as an adult. And then all of a sudden it came back that they were going to look for youthful offender. And he accepted a plea deal, which basically had him serve no time. A little bit of community service, was supposed to take some sex offender classes or, you know, some type of therapy, which apparently they couldn't find the exact one that he needed. So they let him sub that one with something else. And he got to like do kind of therapeutic Lego building and whatnot, supposedly. So it really is kind of asinine. And, you know, as of we're recording this, as of midnight, like a few hours ago, His record is now completely wiped clean.
Well, because, you know, I saw yesterday, and like his attorney apparently made statements that when you hear the allegations, to even, and I get it, if you're a defense attorney, your job's to defend your client, but at the same time to start saying that he's the victim, that Jesse Mack Butler is the victim, and you know, you read through what he admitted to doing, like we're not talking allegedly anymore of
Yeah.
this. And then they said they're going to move to expunge his record. Like, how likely is it that that's something that's actually going to happen?
I think it's 100% going to happen. And let's talk a little bit more about what you just said. So his defense attorney basically spent 10 minutes, including getting apparently teary-eyed emotional, talking about what an amazing client Jesse was and how much grace he showed his accusers. And I saw that when that was sent to me, I'm kind of here with my jaw on the floor, like, really how much grace he showed the girls that he raped and strangled, to the point that one of them needed surgery. Like, he showed, like, it is mind-boggling the way that they handled this and how his family's been so wonderful to deal with. In the meantime, these girls who he abused, they're going to have to spend the rest of their life with both physical and emotional scars, because the one who had to have her neck repaired from where he strangled her, you know, that scar's still there. It's going to be a reminder every time she looks in the mirror.
Well, and you know, you bring that part up because it's chilling to read, and you know, you think of the scars, and then you read the statement here. So there's a new DA who seems to be very much, you know, just this year becoming the new district attorney, and really wants to see something done about this case. Unclear what he is going to be able to do now that we're kind of down the road like this. But you have the previous DA; she's retired, Laura Austin Thomas, and she was the one who ended up negotiating this deal, right? And so she puts out a statement in December, and this was after, and you know, you did a lot in making this a national story. Then the body cam video comes out, and people are like, wait a second, this kid is a youthful offender status for this. And I shouldn't say kid because he's 19 years old. He's a grown man. But I just want to read part of the statement, and then we can talk about it. The district attorney's office carefully evaluates every case submitted for prosecution to determine the strengths and weaknesses of the available evidence and potential defenses. The charges in this matter allege conduct by a 16-year-old male directed at similarly aged young women. Most crimes committed by persons under 18 must be filed in juvenile court, where proceedings are confidential and have no potential for incarceration in the adult system. A significant number of more serious crimes provide the option of filing as a youthful offender. As a youthful offender, the accused has an opportunity for rehabilitation, but can be transitioned to adult status and adult punishment if those efforts fail. A much more limited number of crimes allow the state to file charges in adult court from the beginning. The youthful offender sentence imposed against Jesse Butler requires him to complete his rehabilitation plan successfully, including an aggressive schedule of therapy with a specialist in sex offender treatment. And should he fail, he faces reclassification as an adult and sentence of 10 years in prison. And so this statement was put out in December, and we'll talk. There's another part to this that we'll talk about later. But like, he was really only in this program for about a year, right? So it's like you have this violent crime that he's admitted to, and then, you know, I'm not shortchanging the effectiveness of therapy, but to think like 1 year later, hey, you're good, it seems. And I know he's like under supervision now, but the idea that this is on track potentially to be expunged, it just seems like, I don't know if it's a flaw with the program itself or the people who negotiated the plea, but it's like, how is it if you mess up on this part, you go to prison for a decade, but if you complete it, like going to therapy, then you're good to go. It just seems like it just seems flawed from what I'm reading on the surface here.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of that we can kind of pick apart and discuss. Because I think, first, let me go back and say, I think that language is important. And I think every aspect of this, from Laura Austin Thomas to Judge Worthington to basically everybody who was involved in this, wording was chosen deliberately. So, yeah, the girls were, I think, 15, 16 years old when the abuse happened. He was 16, 17 when it happened. And she uses the term young women. These are girls. They're not women. They are girls. They are children. By saying young women, and I think that, you know, this is an issue that becomes normalized too much. By calling them young women, it's like, okay, well, they're adults too. So, you know, this is not as, you know, it's not as big of a deal. You know, you don't get the outrage when it comes to, you know, adults this happening to versus kids. these are kids. So that's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is, yeah, when you're talking about the sex offender treatment, my understanding was they couldn't find a therapist that fit specifically in the parameters of what he needed. So they've gone through and adjusted the course of his rehabilitation plan throughout this. But here's something else that's important that I think your audience needs to know. Not only is Jesse somebody who doesn't know what the term no means, and forced himself, threatened, he strangled these girls. And I want you to think about this. First, strangulation is one of those key lethality indicators, right? If somebody strangles you in, intimate partner violence, then there is a 750% increased chance that they are going to kill you. Now, you also have to think about that part of this situation, and this was on Jesse's phone. They have this evidence supposedly on his phone where he strangled her and recorded it. He strangled this girl one time to the point that she passed out, knew right when to stop, woke her up, and then strangled her again so that he could get it on film or get it on camera. So my point to that is you have somebody who's 16, 17, 18 years old that already knows, for lack of a better term, the precision of strangulation to know right when to stop. To me, that is an indicator of somebody who we are going to see again. And next time, his victim might not be so lucky. And when you don't have somebody in the right course for rehabilitation, then how are you dealing with that? How are you dealing with the fact that you're saying that after him doing this in 1 year, like you said, and not even a year, because it took time to find this person, this therapist, whoever he's going to, or whatever program. So what, 6 months, 8 months, 9 max that he's doing therapy, and now he's all of a sudden cured. He doesn't need to keep doing it. And there's never been accountability on his side. You can tell that from the DA, or not the DA, I'm sorry. Well, yeah, the DAs, the previous ones, and you can tell that from his attorney as well, because there's never been an apology to the victims. The victims have always been dragged through the mud by his family, by the district attorney, by his attorney. So I think what you have here is a situation where you have a young man who has zero accountability for what he did. He's going to go on and do it again. If I was a betting man, I'd put money on it. And I think it's just a matter of when, not if.
And the second paragraph of this statement that the former DA put out just stood out to me, where she writes, "Years of experience tell us that juries often struggle with convicting defendants based upon delayed reports of sexual assault between people in ongoing consensual dating relationships, and the trial process can be very traumatic for families. Nonetheless, after consultation with the victims and their families, we chose to file this matter and to file it in adult court rather than juvenile court in order to bring the serious behavior at issue into the public eye, and with hopes of avoiding later reclassification of the case to juvenile status." Like the idea that, because it doesn't seem like, first off, you have a victim's word about what happened, and that's incredibly powerful. And that's, I'm not a lawyer, but I think we see a lot of these cases and the directions that they go. Then to your point, there's forensic evidence here about especially for the girl who was strangled. And then there's video evidence as well, it seems, because he recorded it and admitted to all of this. It just, like, the idea that it's like this statement comes off as belittling the word of someone saying that they had this done to them, where it's like, well, these consensual relationships, how they go. And it just, I don't know how this was received when it was put out in December, but it's kind of interesting to read that. And then kind of hearing what you're saying, it just seems like the old DA's office had a very different tone about this case compared to the new one.
Correct. And I remember when this statement came out, because I ripped it apart online, because it's another one of those things, in my opinion, when it came out, was like, let's just try to CYA. I think that this statement was at the time trying to diffuse all the, this was going very viral around that time. And I think that they were trying to diffuse that. And I think that all they did was pour fuel on a fire. And I also want to go back and say something too. They didn't discuss this with the victims' families, despite what she says, and it wasn't agreed upon. And, something else that I didn't mention earlier, when you're talking about the girl who was strangled, I don't remember if it was 10 seconds or 30 seconds, but the doctor said, had he gone like another 10 seconds or 30 seconds, again, it doesn't matter, it's a minuscule amount of time, that she would no longer be here. So yeah, you have the scars, you have a medical professional saying what happened, you have, the physical evidence, the forensic evidence. You also had a victim impact statement, which I read from one of the girls, which was incredibly powerful. And they still let this happen. Now, going to your point about the way that this office handled it, at the same time this was going on, there was another attorney, a prosecutor that worked in the office who had been arrested a couple years prior for possession of CSAM, child sexual abuse material. And that office kept delaying and delaying and delaying and delaying his court date. So what it kind of seems to me is that when it came to predators, from what we've seen, and this is even what got the attention of State Representative J.J. Humphrey from Oklahoma, who's also running for, I think, Lieutenant Governor right now, was that there was so much being pushed under the rug and hit and slid around in this particular DA's office that things really just weren't kind of on the up and up. I'm not going to call it corruption straight out, but that was kind of where things started being alluded to. Going to what you were saying about this new DA actually was sworn in this past Friday.
Okay,
And
so
he
even
inherited,
sooner
he inherited this case. And I don't know if this is jumping the gun a little bit, but when Derek Chance, Jesse's attorney, was making all of those statements in court about how wonderful Jesse and his family were, how much grace he showed, Jeremiah Gregory, the new DA, called him on that and said, I'll be issuing a statement. And boy, did he issue a statement. And I'm sure you're going to get to it, but he says, I can't change the terms of what happened here, due to double jeopardy. Our U.S. Constitution protects us from double jeopardy, so he can't really do anything about that. But he said, basically, the federal government is a separate sovereign, and I'll be referring it to the federal government.
Yeah, and it was a scathing statement. And also, he kind of talked about where the defense attorney wasn't expected to make the type of statement that he did in court that day for all of this. And I just wonder, I mean, and who knows, it's in the past now, but it's like, if this case didn't get national attention, like, is that, how this deal kind of went through? And you think of how many deals are out there that don't make it, on your social media or on our YouTube page, where they don't get the attention. And it's something where a DA's office just makes a deal. A place like Stillwater gets a lot of attention because of college football, but also a very small community. Like, how often, had you not brought this forward, and some of the other creators out there that really put a lot of attention on it, is this a case that just goes on and people forget about it? And maybe that's what they thought was going to be the case.
I think that's what they were hoping for. And I think that they weren't anticipating the amount of response, but it is enraging, especially because, you look at, when you look at the statistics, it's, for girls who get abused, it's 1 in 4 and then 1 in 8 for boys. And I think that you have a lot of people who look at this and say, what the hell is this? And it's enraging. I don't know how you can hear what happened to these kids and not be just absolutely, filled with anger and disbelief. And I think that that's kind of what happened here. And to your point, and if I may say this, Jesse Butler, there's another person, Camden Dean Dolly, there's another, a few other things that happened, back when this all started going down, that I got so enraged about. I was like, there has to be a change. So I actually started a petition to end these easy plea deals for these people who hurt kids, regardless of their age, whether it's sexual abuse, physical abuse. And if people want to add their signature to it, it's at change.org/end plea deals. Sorry, shameless plug. But I'm trying to get to 500,000 signatures before January. But the point to all of this is that I think a lot of them get brushed under the rug. I think that a lot of them, just go through the system, because the way prosecutors' office, DA's offices look at this, they just want to win. They want to be able to go to their constituents and say, look at what a great job I'm doing. Do you see all of these wins that I have here in this category? And even if the plea deal makes no sense, like in Jesse's case, well, we had this violent offender. We prosecuted him successfully because by him taking that plea deal, that's now a guilty plea. That's a we prosecuted this successfully plea. And for them, and that can put that on their record. And that's really what they're going for. They're not going for justice or accountability, in my opinion. They're going for, let's check a box so that we can get reelected or reappointed, because look at how tough I am on crime, even if the punishment doesn't fit the crime.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens next. Certainly with the statement of the new district attorney, the story of Jesse Butler and this deal that went down, it's not over just yet. Justin Shepard, you can find him just in the nick of crime on social media. You do a great job bringing light to a lot of these stories. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Joining us now to talk more about this case is an attorney for one of the victims, Rachel Bussett. Thank you for taking the time to be with us here on Law and Crime. You were at this hearing yesterday. Walk us through, because cameras weren't allowed inside, of just what were the moments that stood out to you?
Sure. So the first thing was the court asked for a report from OJA, the Oklahoma Juvenile Authority, about Butler's progress through his probation. They gave a report that, in their opinion, he had completed everything without any violations. There was a question about the number of treatment sessions he had completed. There was a statement made about 16 out of 52. It was unclear to me if it was 16 he had completed since the last check-in or 16 total, but there was that discussion. Then the court offered everybody the opportunity to weigh in about whether or not there were any violations. After that was done, the court then went to the district attorney about whether or not they were seeking a bridging motion in order to take him into an adult sentence. The DA talked about that statute, and then the court allowed each party to make remarks. And so from the DA, it went to the defense counsel, then the newly elected district attorney made some comments, and then I was allowed to make a comment, and then the court gave its ruling.
What did you say to the court?
Well, Chris, I really wasn't expecting to get an opportunity to speak. I don't know if you've heard, the defense counsel made some pretty surprising remarks about the alleged innocence and victimhood of his own client, which really threw everyone off. And then the newly elected district attorney made some remarks. So I was kind of at the end and a little bit caught off guard. But really what I talked about was that, my clients and I respected the role that each party has in the process, and whether or not we liked the outcome, we understood the process. I talked about some very important statistics about intimate partner violence and strangulation that I think are significant and have gotten lost along the way. We talked about the fact that, in my opinion, and I believe under the law, no matter what Mr. Butler or his counselor say, you cannot consent to strangulation, period, at the end. And that, if you're a victim of intimate partner violence that involves non-fatal strangulation, you're 750% more likely to be murdered in the future by that partner, and that those perpetrators who commit non-fatal strangulation are most likely to murder somebody. And that I know that statistic, and as a result, no matter what happens going forward, we will be watching, and if and when this happens again, because statistics tell us it will, we will be there to talk about it and have our voices heard, because this isn't going to happen again to somebody.
And I mean, you're in the room with Jesse Butler as you're saying this. Like, do you believe that he was listening to what you had to say?
No.
What was it, just because we don't have cameras in the courtroom, like what about kind of the way he acted made you feel that way?
There was really no looking at anybody. There was no, people who feel remorse or shame over what's happened, look down, look away, that sort of thing. There was very much a head held high. And, the demeanor of an attorney feeling like that they could go in and say the things that needed to be said with the deal that their client got. And all of the things that have happened, in my mind, there was a lot of arrogance and the lack of taking responsibility, as evidenced by the statements made by counsel. You don't go in and do that without talking about what's going to happen. And you have to feel that you have permission to say, I think, and do certain things like that in court. And that attorney felt like, whether it was because of his relationship with the past district attorney or whatever, that he had permission to get up and say and do the things that he did.
And moving forward, I mean, how has kind of where we are at this point, like, how's your client feeling about everything at this time? I mean, she has been through so much, and Jesse Butler is now at this point where he's I know he's under supervision to an extent, but like there's the possibility that he could have his record expunged.
I anticipate he will have his record expunged, though we will fight that in every way that the law allows us to fight it. and keep this out there. The nice thing about the internet is it is forever. And so these girls will keep talking about it. We're moving into the next stage of the litigation. The other victims counsel filed their civil rights lawsuit last December. That's pending on a motion to dismiss. We have some deadlines that I think expire on Monday as it relates to our tort claim. So if a resolution isn't reached between now and Monday, we will be filing suit to move forward against the school, the city of Stillwater, and the Butler family. And so we'll be seeking civil justice where a criminal didn't give us relief.
What in a perfect world for you now, and I know like perfect world's a tough term to use all considering everything that's gone down, but like from a civil side, what are you going for? Like what does justice look like with the situation you're in now?
I think justice looks a lot of different ways. Obviously, we can't undo what's happened to them. These girls want to see change in the school and how things were handled. There's just an absolute denial that they did anything wrong at the school, and that's just not true. It was not investigated ever. It certainly wasn't treated as if Title IX applied. They thought that because that this happened off campus, that they had no responsibility. But the fact of the matter is nobody ever asked whether anything happened on campus, and it did. And the school didn't investigate. There are so many different failings. So it's policy changes, it's implementation, it's coming forth and talking about it. An apology would go a long, long way. And obviously there's going to have to be some form of civil damages that are paid. And what that look like, I think varies depending on which side of the situation that you're in. But it's my experience that the school thinks that they did nothing wrong and they owe nothing.
In the newly sworn in district attorney, I saw that he made a statement where he's going to continue to look into this. He made a mention of potentially seeing if the federal government could file charges. I mean, what are your expectations there about whether that could actually happen?
I understand that that's a long shot, but I've always thought, based on what I know, that that phone has CSAM material on it. And why the prior district attorney didn't pursue that, I don't know, but that is something that I know that the federal government takes very serious, and I hope that they will go in there and look. My client has revealed that we believe that there are photographs of other young women on that phone, and if there are other women in Stillwater, young girls that are young women that were under the age of 18 that believe that this man might have had photographs of them, whether they sent it or otherwise, on his phone, I would encourage them to come forward and talk to the authorities. And, if somebody showed photos of my client to them, if Mr. Butler showed photos of my clients, I would ask those individuals who were shown to come forward to talk about it, because that wasn't consensual and it's not appropriate, and we need to get to the bottom of it. I really hope that the feds will look into it, and if there's something there, pursue it.
And in December, the previous district attorney, where this plea deal was brokered, that allowed him to have youthful offender status, she put out a statement saying that part of the reason it went in this direction was because she spoke with victims' family members about, it makes it seem like it was kind of this collaborative effort in a decision going forward. From your perspective, what was the communication like with the previous DA leading into the decision for the case to go in this direction?
Well, there were lots of discussions or meetings. I don't think that there was an actual true communication, and I think they were told one thing when something else was happening in the background, because my clients have maintained that all the way up until the time that they were walking into the courtroom, they believed that there was going to be a guilty plea or the possibility of a guilty plea. And here's the thing. There are tape recordings of that former district attorney having a conversation with the other family member wherein it is stated that she was going to continue working on getting a guilty plea, and that this no contest plea wasn't set in stone, that weren't allowed to come in. And I understand and respect the judge's ruling, whether I agree with it or not. I understand why he made that ruling. But the fact of the matter is my clients did not know up until they walked into that courtroom that day that there was going to be a no contest ruling or no contest plea. But everything that I am learning as we're going through this is it was always the intent of the former district attorney, at least Miss Laura Austin Thomas, that this was going to be a no contest plea, and that was not communicated to my clients. My clients believed it was going to be guilty, as did the other victim.
Why was that the plan for the former DA to take this case in that direction?
Well, I think that's the $1 million question. Why is that? I don't know.
And then just lastly, for people who have maybe seen this story, maybe this is the first time that they're kind of digesting everything that's happened over the past several months. And I know that there's only so much you can share, but how has what happened to your client and everything that's gone on up until yesterday had an impact on her life?
I mean, it's completely changed the course and direction of her life. The sexual assaults aside, she did the thing that we tell young men, young women, adults everywhere. When this happens to you, you come forward and you tell us and you'll be protected. And unfortunately, that's not what happened. She was put back one day later with her assailant in the classroom. She had to go to school with him for 2 weeks with absolutely no protection. Then the only protection that was done was to take him out of the classroom. There was nothing put in place about passing in the hallways, not encountering him in extracurricular activities, all of that. She lost her high school experience from September 12th, 2024 forward. She didn't get to walk across the stage. She didn't get to go to junior prom. She didn't get to go to senior prom. She didn't get to participate in all of these extracurricular activities. So the assaults aside, which completely changed her life, and really soured her on romantic relationships, the institutional betrayal of trust by the school and the police department for how this was handled is just immeasurable, and it's the opposite of everything that it's supposed to be when you go forward to a trusted institution and say, I've been hurt.
Rachel Bussett, attorney for one of the victims in the case of Jesse Mac Butler. Thank you for taking the time to be with us here on Law and Crime. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it too.
That will do it for On the Case, presented by Law and Crime. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify, and we're also streaming on Peacock. I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.